Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Aaron. I am the Brick Scavenger, and today we are talking Lego trees. I have a huge Lego city. I want to fill it up with lots of trees and foliage, but it's incredibly frustrating for two reasons, really. One, Lego foliage parts are really hard to find and they're really expensive. And so it can be very frustrating to try and fill out a Lego city with trees on a budget. So I totally get that. We're going to talk about that. And second of all, Lego being a building tool that works mostly on 90-degree angles, it can be really frustrating to get trees with angled and bent branches. More natural, filled out looking trees can be really frustrating. So here are going to be 5 tips on how you can build better trees for your Lego city with parts that you probably already have in your house. Here we go. All right, guys, here we go. Tip number 1. So you've probably seen a lot of these types of trees in Lego cities or maybe even built them yourselves, right? Very flat. The leaves all kind of sit parallel to the ground. Not a super realistic looking tree. It's fine. It can service your Lego city okay. But how can we go a little bit better than that? Maybe create some slight angles on the trees. Very, very simple solution. You've probably used this one before. We're talking clips and bars here. If we just simply take the clip and the bar, click them together, and then we take a leaf and attach it to one of them. This is the absolute simplest solution. If you happen to have clips and rods, you can just bend that down a little bit. And now suddenly you've got some more natural looking angles for your leaves. A very simple solution, works really well. Ideally, these would be brown, of course, but please don't hesitate to use other colors. If you're building a big full tree, most of these colors are going to be covered up and hidden by the leaves. You don't have to worry about it too much. Now, if you don't have any clips and rods, you could also do these ratchet pieces. These have a very similar effect. In fact, if you have both, I would recommend these because they are stronger. And if your leaves get heavy, these actually will work better. And so same idea, click those together, attach to the branch, and now the ratchet piece will allow you to get a better angle. So either clips, rods, or ratchets, either one will work just fine, but you can get a very slight angle on your leaves to make them much more natural. You could even angle them up. I mean, a lot of trees angle up, right? So you can even do that direction as well. Either one works really well. But tip number 1, ratchets or clips and rods. All right, tip number 2, animal tails. These animal tails you might have because of, they're in lots of different sets, and so you may have those in a pile of loose Lego. But don't hesitate to try to use these. These things create some crazy angles. Let's talk this white tail first. This is the very tip of a tail, but this little nub right here will actually fit into some of the open studs of, for example, this stud on the side brick. So here, we can actually slide this right into here now, and we can get some crazy angles for trees. And in this case, maybe we're making a cherry blossom tree, something like that. The end of the tree will now, or the end of the branch of the tail will now end up letting us get some crazy angles that way. So imagine 3 or 4 of these coming off of this, or you can now even attach another one to here. We can really get some good angles. You'll notice we're nowhere near parallel to the ground anymore. Similarly, you can also use the tails that are not completely to the tip. So they're going to have a hole here, and they're going to have the Technic connector here. Now, these can be a little tougher to connect to the ground because you're going to have to find a way to get a Technic hole 90 degrees pointing up and down, which can be a little tricky. But in this case, we've used a Technic piece here and then used a Technic connector with the hole here. So now we can get the tail pointed up and down. But notice the angle that we have here now. And then I'm going to take a leaf piece with a little carrot top, and the carrot top going through is actually the perfect size to go right into the tail. And now look at the angle that we have here. And then of course, you know, we can rotate this around all we want to to get any desired angles that you might want. So tip number 2, try using a tail, an animal tail, connected to your branch. In some cases, it can give you some crazy angles for trees. Now you can imagine really filling these out with a bunch of leaves. All right, let's talk tip number 3. For lack of a better term, I'm gonna call this bars. Bars, anything that has a bar on it. It could be these, it could be a lightsaber blade, something like that. Any of these types of pieces here, along with something with a hole. I know it sounds crazy, but something as simple as one of these T-grip lightsaber hilts, or don't forget about this little guy. This little guy can be super useful to get you some good angles. So as a simple example, let's go like this right here, okay? And then let's put another one on right in this side. Now notice now that because of the way these are attached and because they're just bar and hole, I can change the angle of these dramatically any way I want to. So now I should be able to connect this thing on here. And because I've got 2 of them, I can actually create some crazy angles on the same branch going at different angles. All right, so anything with a bar on it, it's tough to see from that angle, but look, we can get all sorts of crazy angles by now just rotating these, pivoting them around the bar. So that can be super helpful to get you some crazy angles if you happen to have some of those pieces around. Similarly, let's talk bar. I can't pick it up. There we go. If we go something like this now, if we connect the T-grip of that to the piece, and again, I'm going to use white. Again, these will get hidden if you've got full trees. Connect this. Now I can actually create a long branch that will pivot along that bar and hole. So now if I connect this here, I can get all sorts of crazy angles here, right? And so now it's going to be tough to see. Maybe I can get it a little closer. Now I can slide this into here like this, right? I could even put multiple branches on there if I wanted to. And now I can get all sorts of crazy angles this way as well. Now, again, the color scheme's not perfect, but we're working on a budget, right? Black trees actually end up looking really good in the city. So you may have black bars. You may have some of these black bars. But again, if you have a big full tree, a lot of these colors are going to get hidden away. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Or maybe you have brown ones or you want to buy some brown ones. But we're working on a budget today. And the point is to get different angles. And this bar and hole piece will allow us to get a lot of crazy angles that way. Okay, tip number 4. This one might be cheating because it's kind of a combination of some of the previous ones. But the reason I bring it up is because you might have some of these pieces lying around. These can be reindeer antlers or little arms for robots, things like that. But the point is it's a clip. And if we put this into a bar piece like this, you know, again, it's kind of clip and bar, but check out the crazy angles that we can get from that. If you happen to have those pieces around, then you can bring in your lightsaber blade or your other bar pieces like this. And we can now get all sorts of crazy angles where we can slide these right in and we can get a full looking tree with more natural angles like this. And obviously we can rotate these around here and we can pivot this up and down. And so we can get some fantastic angles that way for our leaves to fill out trees based on the robotic arm clip and bar system there. So try that as well if you happen to have some of those pieces around. All right, guys, here is tip number 5. I have seen a lot of YouTube videos using these plant stem pieces to help create crazy angles. Now, you're going to have to find a way to attach them to the branches. I've used a cone brick here, but you could also use a 1x1 round brick instead of the cone. Doesn't really matter. But the point is, you can already see we're going to get some crazy angles. Now, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos just kind of dangle these things in there and just leave them like that. Honestly, that doesn't really work for me. I don't care for that. It swings. It's not real steady. To me, it doesn't work. But there is a solution to this problem, and that would be to use these little flower pieces, which are all over the place now. You can commonly see these things just kind of, attached to the stems like this. But now you've got a stud on top. And so now you can attach your leaf to that, and you've got a crazy angle that's much more secured. Okay, so that works really well. And if you wanted to get really crazy, you could actually add a second leaf to this on the bottom of it. So you've kind of created a sandwich, and you can see that in there we've still got the little hole to attach to the vine. And now we've got some really crazy angles working here. And you can actually use all three of the vines, if you're clever, to really fill out your tree that way. So using the 3-stem plant piece and then using a flower, taking advantage of the little hole plus the stud and the anti-stud, you can attach leaves that way at some crazy angles to fill out your trees as well. Okay, now, if you really want to create some crazy trees, combining some of the tips that I already showed you can really result in some beautiful stuff. Check this out. We've got the animal tail, and then that leads into the 3-stem with the leaf to attach what I've got in here. Maybe hard to see. These are olive green leaves with the little 3 plants stuck into the leaves. And that can really create a good looking tree. And it can be even nicer if you make another one and put that into here. And now we've really got a very good looking tree, and you'll notice that the leaves are just not flat parallel to the ground. This is a tree where it has all sorts of fun angles, looking very full, and I've really enjoyed building this tree. I would highly recommend you try some of these tips. You can build beautiful trees with your existing Lego parts. If you're a little creative, if you can find a way to get some pretty angles, you can fill out your trees, have a beautiful Lego city without breaking the bank. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Happy building.